Hi, this is Tamara Drake with UkiahValley.tv, bringing you the latest in news from Mendocino County. Friday, smoke could be seen throughout the valley between Redwood Valley and Potter Valley. Emergency crews responded to a permitted burn site that grew larger than expected, however, was still under control. Also Friday, educators from the Ukiah Unified School District showed up at the courthouse in pink to participate in the California Teachers Association statewide Day of Action for Public Education.
Pink Friday, and educators all across the state are getting out for their fellow teachers and programs, and for the kids, for all the programs that are being cut across the state of California. We're hoping that the state will do right and save the programs for the kids. Thank you.
Mendocino County Board of Supervisors wrestled with each other and county staff Monday morning in an effort to close a $252,000 shortfall for the current budget year. 4th District Supervisor Kendall Smith said she was concerned that the CEO's office hadn't brought forward specific positions for a layoff to stretch the county's budget.
Here we are, we've wasted now, it's now been 2 weeks and you still haven't brought us anything concrete. You didn't bring us what I believe we asked you to bring us, so I'd like to know why.
Well, some of that I can, defer to the CEO, but what I would say is the direction we were given last time was to bring back the results of working with the departments that were identified as being over budget.
The board also began discussing budget priorities for the 2009-10 budget in order to stave off an even larger $7 to $8 million structural deficit the county will start with June 1st.
We're in a vastly different environment now for employment than we were 2 years ago or a year ago. A lot of people feel very fortunate to have a job.
One cost-saving measure that was strongly rebuked by County CEO Tom Mitchell was the idea of assigning utility and waste removal costs to each specific department.
The only place it makes any sense is if you have an individual department allocated in a specific building, for instance, the jail, the sheriff administration, HHSA, juvenile hall, where you have a specific meter that goes for that department. It makes some sense. But when you're in a building like this to allocate based on square footage, it makes no practical sense other than you're taking a staff that already has a burden and you're adding additional cost to them.
The Mendocino County Board of Supervisors responded unilaterally to the potential loss of millions of agricultural dollars due to the potential absence of frost protection, with a letter to the State Water Resources Control Board opposing the change.
We were blindsided. The fact that they all of a sudden said, here we are on the beginning of frost season, and it was announced that we would not be able to frost protect during that time.
We spoke with Roland Sanford about some of the complications in dealing with local, state, and federal agencies.
When it comes to the Russian River drainage, it's probably one of the most complicated drainages in the state, in that not only is it a fairly large drainage, but there are certainly a number of state, federal, and local agencies and water districts involved. Historically, not all of the parties have gotten together that well. I think one thing a crisis like this does do is it forces people to cooperate.
Pam Jean from the Sonoma County Water Agency gave Mendocino County residents the reality of the possibilities of cutting water for frost protection.
My name is Pam Jean. I am the Deputy Chief Engineer of Operations at the Sonoma County Water Agency. I was asked point blank at a meeting, are we going to release water for frost protection? And I said, I'm really reluctant to do that, but I also have a regulation that I have to meet, and I don't get to probably make that decision as flippantly as I'd like to. So, our position is that we need to meet in-stream flow requirements. If we need to up those releases from the reservoir in order to meet those requirements, in order to meet all the demands on the system, we're probably going to be doing that.
Roland attributed the slow movement on these water issues to a slow bureaucracy.
State and federal government tends to be very ponderous, and the wheels of bureaucracy turn so slow that we are forced into a situation where we're probably going to be dealing with this for 5-10 years.
Conserve water. I mean, I think that this is This is a definite, in my mind, this is a real true indication of what's to come. It's not going to get any better. And yeah, we're the land of the free, but we're also the land of the highly regulated.
Tuesday, the board voted 5-0 to transmit correspondence to the Department of Toxic Substances Control to urge them to take the lead in the cleanup of the former Masonite site.
Whatever use happens on that site, whether it's DDR's plan or another plan, I think the owner of that site and the people of this valley deserve to know what is in the ground and what the cleanup level needs to be. Second, I think there is a level of county exposure here that needs to be considered. Environmental Health was the lead agency for a number of years, and a large number of the files for a number of years have gone missing from those files. And according to the State Water Resources Control Board, Environmental Health is listed as a secondary agency right now responsible for the cleanup. And as long as that stands, I think the county has to consider the exposure to liability that they face right now.
Jeff Adams with Developers Diversified Realty, thank you. And I really want to thank everybody that seems to be looking out for my best interests on this question. And I just want to stress that there is financial liability. Cliff is right on about that, but I submit to you that my company has the highest financial liability on this. We bought the problem, so to speak. Masonite has been doing everything in their power and working through the remedial action plan that was approved by the state in 2006. It's very close to being closed. There is also a soil and groundwater management plan that we demanded that Masonite put together prior to us closing escrow on the property that sets the ground rules for us if we ever get the right to develop the property, because things will not be discovered until that site is developed. And there is a plan in place to deal with that. Our company has spent no less than $1 million on environmental consultants and attorneys making sure that Masonite does what they're mandated to do as the original polluters of the site, and that the state does what they're supposed to do. There is an interest out there, and it's private money making sure that this happens.
You're requesting the DTSC provide oversight for investigation and remediation of soil and groundwater contamination at the former Masonite plant site. Is that the entire of the motion?
And directive that that a letter be sent. Does a letter be sent to this effect? Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
During a presentation of the county's retirement system, Jim Anderson addressed statements of creative accounting as well as county future pension obligation bonds. Anderson also stated an assumed 8% return on investments.
There's nothing that I've described here that I would construe as I'm not assuming the connotation, supervisor of accounting, but sometimes when you say creative accounting, it assumes as if you're doing something that's incorrect. The reality is that recovering that loss in asset value is going to come primarily from recovery in the market. I think you need to be a little cautious about presumption of pension bonds. Again, that would be your CEO, and any concern that I'd like to allay any concern that we would use any methodologies that would somehow misstate or misrepresent what our actuarial position is.